Harlem, 1934. Past midnight. The streets are empty, but not asleep. This is the kind of night where silence feels intentional, where the city seems to be holding its breath. Streetlights flicker like they're unsure they should stay on. Wind pushes scraps of paper along the sidewalk, and every sound carries too far. Doors are locked. Curtains are drawn. People are awake behind those walls, listening. Because something is moving through Harlem tonight. Something heavy. Something dangerous. And it is headed toward the river. At the edge of Harlem, near the dark water of the Harlem River, an abandoned warehouse sits like a rotting tooth. Its windows are boarded. Its iron door is rusted but strong. Inside, 15 white men gather in low voices. No robes on the street. No hoods outside. But inside this building, they are exactly who they've always been. Ku Klux Klan. Armed. Confident. Laughing quietly as maps of Harlem are spread across a folding table. They believe they are invisible here. They believe the North protects them. They believe Harlem is afraid. They are wrong. The Great Depression had crushed America, but Harlem felt it differently. Harder. Deeper. Jobs vanished overnight. Black workers were the first fired and the last hired. Rent climbed while wages disappeared. Hunger lived in the hallways of tenements. Police cars passed through Harlem slowly, watching, not protecting. White landlords and white politicians made decisions that bled this neighborhood dry. Harlem learned early that survival here did not come from the law. It came from strength. From unity. From reputation that in that vacuum, power rose where protection failed. And power in Harlem did not wear a badge. It wore a calm face and carried a quiet threat. His name was Ellsworth Raymond Johnson. Everyone called him Bumpy. Not because he was loud. Not because he bragged. But because he had a knot on the back of his head from childhood, a reminder that pain shapes men early. Bumpy Johnson read poetry. Quoted philosophers. Thought before he spoke. And when violence came, it came fast, precise, and final. Bumpy controlled Harlem's numbers racket, but more than that, he controlled its balance. Churches were untouched. Women and children were off limits. Random violence was bad for business, and racism was chaos. Harlem was his territory, and he enforced that truth without speeches or mercy. Police knew his name. Mob bosses respected it. And the neighborhood trusted him, not because he was good, but because he was consistent. The warning reached him quietly, the way dangerous truths always do. A dock worker talking too much. A name dropped after too many drinks. A meeting. A warehouse. White men only. Hoods inside. By the time the message reached Bumpy, the night was already deep. He didn't ask how many. He didn't ask for details. He already understood what this meant. He stood in his apartment, buttoning his coat slowly, deliberately. One of his men asked if he wanted backup. Bumpy shook his head. Another reminded him it was the Klan. Bumpy looked at him calmly and said, "That's why." He stepped into the street alone. No car followed him. No men trailed behind. Just the sound of his shoes on the pavement. People watched from stoops, from windows cracked just enough to see. No one stopped him. They knew where he was going. Every step he took felt heavier than the last, not because he was afraid, but because history was walking with him. This wasn't anger. This was inevitability. Inside the warehouse, the men were relaxed. Confident. Joking. One of them was mid-sentence when the door creaked open. A single sound, sharp enough to cut the air. Heads turned. Someone frowned. The door opened fully, and Bumpy Johnson stepped inside. Hat on. Coat buttoned. Hands visible. The laughter died instantly. No one spoke. A cigarette slipped from someone's fingers and hit the floor. The Grand Dragon stood slowly, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He asked Bumpy if he was lost. Bumpy didn't answer right away. He looked around the room, counted the men, noted the weapons, measured the space. Then he spoke softly. He said this was his neighborhood. The leader told him he'd walked into the wrong place. Bumpy nodded once and said he knew exactly where he was. A gun came up. Too slow. The first shot shattered the silence, and the warehouse erupted. Gunfire echoed off concrete walls. Wood splintered. Men shouted and screamed and tripped over each other. Bumpy moved forward with purpose, not panic. He didn't waste bullets. He closed distance. One man dropped clutching his throat. Another never made it up from the floor. The maps of Harlem flew into the air as bodies slammed into the table. Someone tried to run. He didn't reach the door. It was violent, fast, and unforgiving. Chaos, but controlled. And then it was over. Smoke hung in the air. Groans filled the space where laughter had been. Blood soaked into the concrete. Bumpy stood breathing evenly. 3 men were alive. Broken. Terrified. He lowered his gun and looked at them without hatred, without emotion. He told them to go back south. To tell their people what happened here. To never come back. He turned and walked out, leaving the door open behind him. By morning, the warehouse was empty. No bodies. No arrests. Police reports were vague. Gang violence, they said. Case closed. But Harlem knew. Word spread quietly, from docks to bars, from back rooms to front stoops. People slept a little easier. The Klan did not. Meetings stopped. Recruitment dried up. Fear changed sides. Did it happen exactly this way? History keeps its answers incomplete. Pages missing. Reports softened. But Harlem remembers. And legends are born where official records refuse to look. Because power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need applause. It arrives calmly, does what must be done, and leaves consequences behind. Bumpy Johnson didn't chase glory. He enforced respect. And in 1934, the Ku Klux Klan learned what Harlem had always known: fear fades, but respect lasts. And some neighborhoods are defended, even in silence.